They told us what to call it. They always do. They said Bloods versus Muslims. They said it's a gang war. They said security threat. But labels are convenient when you don't want to talk about causes. Because when you remove the labels, when you slow the footage down, when you actually see is black bodies falling inside state-owned cages. Not enemies, not monsters, human beings. And that's the part that never gets discussed. You see, people say they chose that life, but choice looks different when your options are be aligned, be victimized, or be isolated. Inside Georgia prisons, neutrality is often punished more than affiliation. That's not freedom. That's forced alignment. And forced alignment is the backbone of every oppressive system in history. You don't need change when you can program behavior. You don't need overseers when people will police themselves. Willie Lynch wasn't a letter. It was a manual. Divide identity, create fear, reward aggression, destroy trust. Now, a couple of 100 years later, different uniforms, different buildings, same formula. If unity ever broke out inside prisons, the system would panic. Georgia didn't have a discipline problem. It has a capacity problem. Too many inmates, not enough staff, too little oversight. When officers are stretched thin, control shifts to whoever fills the vacuum. That vacuum is filled by gangs, politics, and violence. This isn't chaos. It's predictable outcome. Chain gang mentality isn't about toughness. It's about hypervigilance. Always watching, always calculating, always reacting. That mental state doesn't rehabilitate anyone. It trains people for survival in war, not life in society. And then we release them back into communities and wonder why cycles continue. Atlanta is marketed as black excellence, but beneath the branding is a pipeline: poverty neighborhoods, underfunded schools, overpoliced streets, overcrowded prisons. We export culture, but import trauma. And trauma doesn't stay quiet. It explodes. The absence of education is not accidental. Critical thinkers are harder to control. If you never teach emotional regulation, conflict resolution, historical context, then violence becomes the default language. That's not ignorance. That's system neglect. What gets funded gets followed. When black pain is profitable, it gets packaged and replayed. Lyrics normalize trauma. Visuals normalize death. Awards normalize destruction. And then prisons absorb the fallout. The system profits. Drugs inside prisons aren't about pleasure. It's about escape, control, leverage. Addiction creates debt. Debt creates obedience. Obedience maintains order. That's not a flaw. That's a function. Every prison death creates generational grief, community instability, psychological scars. But these deaths are rarely framed as policy failures. They're framed as personal failures. That narrative protects the system. This is not a gang war. This is a manufactured conflict inside a controlled environment. As long as we fight each other, the structure remains untouched. The moment unity becomes possible, the system becomes fragile. This isn't just a message for prisoners, it's for families, communities, artists, educators, because cages don't start with bars. They start with beliefs. When the oppressed fight each other, the system never has to defend itself. I'm out.